In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of importing a pre-built Linux image into EVNG so that you can then add it to your topology just like any other node. So the first step in doing this is we're going to download the pre-built image, and I'm going to use OSBox's image. So for this, I'm just going to download, we're going to go to VMware images, and I'm going to download a Ubuntu server image. So go down to Ubuntu server. And then I'm going to download the latest Ubuntu Server 20.10, click on the VMware tab, and then download. Once that's downloaded, you want to extract it with, I already have it downloaded here, so you can extract it with a program like 7-zip, since it's in a .7z format. So just right click on it, 7-zip, extract. And then once that's done extracting, you'll get a folder, and inside that folder you'll have the VMDK image. Next step will be to upload it to the EVNG host, and to do that I'm going to use a program called WinSCP. And it's going to pop up, ask for the information for the EVNG host. So my EVNG host is at 192.168.0.30. Put in the username and password. And it's going to dump you into the root folder here. And what you can do is I'm just going to dump this file into the root folder, the root home folder. Okay. And once this is done transferring, we're actually going to SSH into the EVNG server. And we're going to run a couple commands there to allow you to import it as a node into your topology. And so now that this has been uploaded, I'm going to go ahead and use PuTTY to SSH into our EVNG host. Accept the fingerprint. And then from here, we're in our home directory, right? /root. And you'll see the VMDK image that has been uploaded. So now we're going to need to take this file, put it in the correct directory, and convert it into a .qcow2 image. To do that, I'm going to follow instructions that they have on EVNG's website. So I'm going to go to evng.net, documentation, how-tos, and then create Linux host image. And then here also, EVNG has some ready to download Linux images, but the ones that they have here doesn't have the image that I wanted. So I'm going to go down to where it shows how to create your own custom Linux host. And then we're going to start out here with making this directory. I'm going to follow this naming convention here. Browse to the directory, and then so now I'm in the directory. I'm going to copy the image from my home directory. So now you see that image there. Alright, and we need to change this VMDK file into a QCal2 image so that EVNG can use it. So to do that, I'm going to use this command, QEMU image convert -f VMDK -O QCal2, that file name, and then virtioa.qcal2. Alright, now that it has been converted, you can see it here. We can remove the file, file. We don't need that anymore. And then we'll go ahead and fix some permissions. So to do that, UNL_wrapper -a fix permissions. Alright, and now we can go back into EVNG, right click add node, and it should be listed under Linux. And you see I have a couple of other images here, but the one that we just created was this one here with the OS boxes. Hit save, and then we now have our Linux node here. Let me go ahead and add a network so we can connect to the internet. And then connect it. And then once we start the Linux node, we should see it booting up. Default username and password is osboxes, osboxes.org. Alright. We should be able to ping something on the internet. No. I'm going to shut it down. Probably didn't work because I didn't have the link connected prior. So once this register site is shut down, we're going to start up again. And we should have a network adapter. Okay, it just didn't show it. So it's ENS3 is our network adapter. But it's not getting an IP address. So let's see what we have. Alright, so a network configuration file showing ENS33 instead of ENS3. Let's go ahead and make that correction. Sudo net plan apply. Alright, so now we see under ifconfig ENS3, and then it's getting an IP address from my DHCP server. One thing you also see is these errors. It's thinking it has a floppy drive, so we'll go ahead and remove that floppy drive. So we're going to remove that kernel module, floppy, and then we're also going to add it to the blacklist. Mod probe. Alright, so we're adding it to this file so that once we reboot, it won't pop up again. So I'm gonna have to reconfigure init RAM FS tools. And that should take care of the floppy errors. But I'm also going to change the host name to something other than OS boxes. And then for this to take effect, you can log out and log back in. I'm just gonna go ahead and reboot it. Alright, you see our host name has changed. Then I'm also going to go ahead and update it. Alright, so once we have everything updated, looks like we've done everything to this Linux host that we need to. And so now we can go ahead and shut it down, and we're going to commit these save changes so that we can import it multiple times or import it into a different EVMG topology. Shut it down. Once it's recognized that it's stopped, we're going to go back into the EVMG host. And I'll bring up the documentation to actually commit it. So that is under Save Your Settings. So under Save Your Settings to be as default on QEMU node. So we did this, we started and made the changes, we updated the host name, updated the packages. We've properly shut it down. And then these following steps are to commit it. So we need to get the lab UUID. To get that, go to the left here under lab details. Go ahead and copy this. And then pod ID, that's based on your username that you're logged into EVMG with. So since I'm logged in as admin, it'll be 0. So we're going to browse to this directory, 0 for my user ID, and then paste in the lab ID, and then the node ID would be, if you right click on it, it's the number that's in parentheses. And do a QEMU image commit, and then the file name, which is vert.ioa.qcow2. And what this is doing is taking the image that is in this lab folder and then moving it back to the original folder that we created. Alright, so that's done. Go back here. We can then add another Linux node using that same image. And start it. And then we should see it starting up here. Alright, one more thing I want to show you here is now that we have basically two Linux hosts here that were basically clones of themselves, they're going to pull the same IP address. And the reason that is although they have different MAC addresses, Ubuntu's DHCP client uses a machine ID to request the IP address through DHCP. And they are, right now, they are the same. So if you do an ifconfig on each, you'll see that they have the same IP address, but they do have different MAC addresses. But if we do if you look at the machine ID, they are the same. So in this Linux 2 host, I'm going to just change this machine ID. So we're going to erase the machine ID. Probably just change one of the letters, but I'm just going to delete it all together. Alright, so nothing's in that file right now. So to regenerate the machine ID, we do a systemd-machine-id/setup. You do it as a super user. So now you can see that we have a different machine ID. But for it to take effect, you can go ahead and either restart the networking service or you can just reboot. So I'm just reboot. When it comes back up, you'll see that it has a different IP address. Alright, so yeah, this one has .164, and the original one has .162. So if you add another Linux host, you're going to have to do the same thing so that it doesn't get the same IP address. This is specific to Ubuntu, maybe other distributions as well, but some of them, they actually use a MAC address when creating or when requesting an IP address. So it's not gonna affect all distributions. So that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put in the comments down below. And yeah, see you next time. Thanks.